There is a quiet confusion many people carry when they talk about democracy. They speak of it as if it were a building somewhere. A system already installed. A thing that either works or fails on its own. And when it feels broken, people feel helpless. They say democracy is dying. Democracy is weak. Democracy is under threat. But this way of speaking hides something important. Democracy does not live out there. It does not sit safely inside laws or elections alone. It lives much closer. It lives inside people. Context matters because many of us were taught democracy as a structure. You vote. You follow rules. You accept outcomes. That is it. Responsibility ends there. But this view turns democracy into an object. Something you visit once in a while. Something other people maintain. And when trust breaks, we feel like victims of a machine we cannot touch. This distance creates apathy. It creates complaint without action. It creates spectators instead of participants. The surface insight is simple but unsettling. Democracy is not something you have. It is something you do. It is an action before it is a system. It begins with a desire. A desire to share power. A desire to listen. A desire to be ruled together instead of ruled over. Without this desire, no structure can hold. You can have elections without democracy. You can have laws without democracy. You can have freedom words without democratic life. Because the heart of democracy is not procedure. It is practice. When people stop practicing it, democracy becomes a shell. The hidden assumption that causes trouble is that democracy can survive without effort. That once built, it runs on autopilot. But no relationship works that way. Not families. Not friendships. Not communities. Democracy is a relationship among strangers. And relationships require care. Attention. Repair. When people withdraw emotionally, democracy weakens even if the system remains. When people refuse to listen, democracy shrinks. When people stop believing their voice matters, democracy empties out. Insight 3 is about responsibility. If democracy is something you do, then saying the word carries weight. You cannot say democracy and then step away. You cannot demand democracy without participating in it. Doing democracy shows up in small actions long before big moments. It shows up when you listen to someone you disagree with without turning away. It shows up when you speak honestly without trying to dominate. It shows up when you stay curious instead of cynical. These acts feel small, but they train the muscles democracy needs. Reframing this idea changes how we see power. Power is not only held by leaders. It is practiced by citizens. Every time you choose dialogue over dismissal, you practice democracy. Every time you choose shared solutions over winning, you practice democracy. Every time you take responsibility for how your words affect others, you practice democracy. This does not mean being polite all the time. Democracy includes conflict. It includes anger. It includes strong disagreement. But it requires engagement. Silence born of fear or exhaustion is not neutral. It leaves space for others to decide alone. Application to daily life becomes clear when we look closely. In workplaces, democracy appears when decisions include those affected. In families, it appears when children are heard. In neighborhoods, it appears when people show up to local meetings. In online spaces, it appears when conversation aims for understanding instead of humiliation. These are not grand acts. They are daily habits. And habits shape culture. The deeper layer is about inner life. Democracy begins inside because it asks something personal. It asks us to tolerate uncertainty. To accept that we do not always get our way. To live with complexity. To resist the comfort of simple answers. This is hard work. It is easier to hand power to someone else. It is easier to withdraw. But democracy demands maturity. It demands that we hold both conviction and humility. That we believe our voice matters but not more than everyone else's. Combined. This inner work is invisible but essential. Without it, democracy becomes noise. With it, democracy becomes resilient. Over time, practicing democracy changes people. They become less reactive, more patient, more capable of disagreement without destruction. This does not mean harmony. It means endurance. Democracies fail not only when institutions collapse but when people stop practicing the values that hold them together. Trust, participation, responsibility. These cannot be enforced. They must be chosen. Again and again. Saying democracy is a verb reminds us that it is never finished. It is always in motion. Always fragile. Always available. It lives in conversations. In choices. In how we respond to power and to each other. So the quiet question that remains is if democracy truly exists only when people actively practice it. What small daily responsibility might you take today to do democracy rather than just talk about it?